I wasn't looking for Bigfoot. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I didn't even believe in it. But that night, something stepped between the trees. And for the first time, I didn't have an explanation. This is the story of my first real sighting, and the moment I realized I might have ignored something before. Hey guys, welcome back to the Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. My name is Matt Harvey. I am the founder and lead investigator with Deep Woods Paranormal. In this episode, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Not the podcast, not the interviews, not the research. This is actually the first moment in the woods when something really didn't make sense to me. So I used to do ghost tours up at Black Star Canyon. This is in Orange County, California. You guys have heard me talk about, excuse my alarm. You guys have heard me talk about Black Star Canyon multiple times. If you have been on my old YouTube channel, which unfortunately got erased by YouTube for some reason, I guess I got too close to things. They decided, oh, nope, gone. So I had to start over. Anyways, so I had a lot of videos of Black Star Canyon where I was Bigfoot researching up there, not only ghost hunting, but Bigfoot researching up there. And the cat likes to jump up behind me. Anyways, so I used to do ghost tours up there, and essentially it was Halloween night. I was actually on my second ghost tour of the night, and just my first tour home. It was dusk. It was just starting to get dark. It wasn't quite dark. It was kind of hazy. It's starting to get just kind of like shadows were starting to stretch, right? So I had about 30 people, believe it or not, on that tour for that night. And they were horseshoed behind my car. If you've never been to Black Star Canyon, it's up in the Cleveland National Forest, basically. The canyon leads into the forest, and essentially it's just an old walking trail now. It used to be a single-lane highway that went from Orange County to Riverside. So these mountains are basically untouched. Well, mainly the only thing out there is there used to be a few homes because where the canyon got its it's basically named from. They used to mine low-grade coal out there, and the mining company that was out there is called the Black Star Mining Company. Anyways, long story short, so I'm giving this tour, and I have a bunch of people behind my vehicle. I'm parked on the road. On the left and the right of me are barbed wire fences, and then it's basically just weeds and brush. And on the left side is where we had the encounter. We're basically facing back towards, we weren't facing the gate, we were facing away from the gate. And we essentially were, I was given my safety spiel, and rocks slowly but surely started coming flying over the fence at us. And these two girls that were standing close to the fence were complaining that rocks were being thrown at them. So I said, okay, if it happens again, let me know. And we'll take, I'll get some big guys over there, and we'll walk over and tell those dumb teenagers to stop throwing rocks at us. Because I'm just thinking teenagers are over there, they're messing with us. I didn't know anything about Bigfoot throwing rocks at that point. And they weren't big rocks, they were pebbles. They weren't like huge. And they were just landing at the girls' feet. And I don't know, at this point, I don't know if it was trying to get our attention or if it was trying to scare us away or what, or was just playing playful. Maybe it thought the girls were cute. I don't know. Anyways, so they go, no, but it just happened again. And I'm like, okay, these stupid teenagers, I understand you like to go out there and get scared and have fun and play pranks on people, but stop throwing rocks at people, right? So I grabbed 6 of the biggest guys in the group, and we all walked over to the fence, and we looked over, and by now it's just a little bit darker. You can still see, but it's not quite, it's just starting to get dim, if you will. So I had a little miner's light on my hat. And I click on the button and I start scanning from left to right. I get about 45 degrees across, and standing in the damn middle of behind this, in this clearing right in front of 2 trees, is this huge, massive Bigfoot. Silvery gray, had to be pushing 14 feet. And basically just standing there in the clearing looking at us. And I'm looking at it, it's looking at us, and I don't know what my first reaction was, but I'm pretty sure my jaw hit the ground, right? The guys standing next to me are like dumbfounded too. And we're all staring at this thing. And one of them goes, Matt. And he just tries to snap me out of my trance. I think he had to say it 2 or 3 times. Matt, Matt. I'm like, what? He's like, do you have a camera? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So I ran back to my car. I get the camera, right? And I used to carry a little ghost hunting kit with me. And I used to have just a little digital camera, a K2 meter, an audio recorder. I did carry a Sony Handycam back then. This is 20 plus years ago. So anyways, I ran over and instead of getting the Handycam, which I probably should have gotten, I got the Coolpix, a little Nikon camera. Run back over the fence. I'm like, is it still here? They're like, yeah. So I spotlighted it again with my hat. I have my little light on it, right on it. And you can still see it. It's getting a little darker now. And so I flip up the little tiny flash, right? This is not like a big Nikon camera. It's one of the little small ones with the little flip up flash that's meant to take a picture of somebody, no more than about 4 or 5 feet away. So I snap off a photo. And this thing just grimaces. Just the face on this thing. It just made this face. And it grunted at us. I'm like, oh, crap. This thing's going to come tear us limb from limb. And I was just about to say run when I stupidly looked down to the camera to see if the picture had come out. It was black. I'm like, oh, damn it. So I picked it up and smartly, I took another picture. And this thing just stood there. I mean, it was frozen solid. I mean, I don't know if it didn't think we could see it or what, but it just stood there. Massive thing. I mean, I'm 6'2", and I'm a big guy. I'm about 280 pounds. So imagine my whole body as an arm on this thing. I mean, this thing was, the arms on this thing were at least 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide. The chest on it was probably 4 or 5 feet wide. And I mean, the head on it it looked like a ginormous watermelon, right? And silvery gray hair, just stood there. Didn't do anything this time. And so we stood there staring for another, felt like minutes, but I think it was only like 3 or 4 seconds. And I finally said, doesn't it know we can see it? And it grunted again. And then it walks behind. It takes about 2 steps. So it walked about 10 feet, took about 2 steps, right? Steps in behind this tree. And this tree, the diameter on this tree probably had to be 5 or 6 inches wide. Puts his hands, one on top of the other, around the tree. And basically, this tree, we measured this tree. It was standing about 10 feet tall now. It's probably way taller than that now because this is so long ago. But the tree, basically where the belly button was, that's where the top of this tree was. And this thing was just towering over it, 3 or 4 feet over it, at least. And so it grabs this tree and it has his hands around this tree. And we're like, okay, we can still see you. And then it grunted again and it growled. It had a low guttural growl. I can't even make that noise. I try to every once in a while. It just doesn't sound anything like what it sounded like. And literally, it stomped off. Boom, boom, boom. And it shook the ground. It felt like there was an earthquake. I mean, it did not, it was not like, one thing I can say it's like is when the trains at my work collide, they basically ram cars into different tracks to basically put trains together. So when they hit, it's just boom. It shakes the whole ground, and that's what this sound felt like. It just shook the whole ground. It felt like a very small earthquake. And the first time it walked over there behind the tree, it didn't make any noise at all. It was crazy. It was just like soft as could be. But this thing really wanted to make sure we knew it was upset with us. And so when it walked in behind these trees, it took another 10 steps, basically, walked in behind the trees, and you could hear it rustling the bushes, and it was irritated at us. And so that was crazy. And I remember just going, oh my gosh, they're real. Oh my gosh, they exist. That was the day, in about 2 seconds, I went from being a skeptic to a believer. And I grew up watching all the shows back in the 80s and 90s, late 80s, early 90s, Unsolved Mysteries, the X-Files, all that stuff. I never really thought that was real. Okay, so where was I at? Again, I told you that. The time of the day, I told you that. Who was with you? I already told you that. What were we doing? Okay, we've already gone through this. The mood was pretty chill before it happened. And afterwards, and I could not wait to get home because I wanted to see those pictures. And when I got home, I was pretty disappointed, to be honest with you. They were just black. I had a professional photographer look at them, try to negative them, and do all kinds of things with them. But he said it was just going to ruin the picture, and nobody would believe the picture anyways if we did all the things he could do to try and pull it out. So, what did I see first? I already talked about that. The distance from me was about 25 feet. The lighting conditions, like I said, it was dusk getting into dark. The encounter only lasted probably 5 minutes. The details that stuck out with to me the most were probably the fact that it was just so large. I always thought that Bigfoots were no more than about 8 feet or less. This thing was almost double that. I mean, it was pushing 14 feet at least. I went back to that tree about a year later and measured the tree. The tree was only about 10 feet tall, so it could have grown a little bit since the point where I saw that Bigfoot. But yeah, I mean, must have been older. The silvery gray hair must have been an older Bigfoot. Maybe they lose their pigment like we do as we get older. Okay. So my physical reaction was, yes, I did freeze. My jaw, like I said, my jaw probably hit the ground. I was so, oh my gosh, it's real. What am I looking at? My adrenaline definitely had kicked in. Time definitely felt like it slowed down. I was excited the rest of the night after that. Like I said, I couldn't wait to get home. But we had a really good night up there. I mean, we caught possibly a couple apparitions on camera. I used like same camera to take pictures of the group and places that we had ghost hunting hot spots, and we seemed to get some activity. So that whole group seemed to be paranormally charged. Maybe it was one of the group members that made that thing come out. Maybe it was interested in one of the people that was with me, and then after that, we talked about it when we left, and everybody saw the same thing I did. And they're like, holy crap, 31 people became believers that night. It was just an amazing encounter. So, I tried to rationalize it, but there's just no rationalizing that. I mean, it was what it was. I mean, the thing was standing in the clearing. Like I said, it was massive. It was probably pushing 5-6 feet wide, shoulder to shoulder, and 14 feet tall, and silvery gray. Like I said, giant head, giant arms. I mean, that thing was massive. I did try to convince myself it wasn't a Bigfoot, but it just nothing. There was no way to. What I saw was what I saw. There's just no way to rationalize that. Anyways, so before I had this Bigfoot incident, before I had the Bigfoot sighting, my actual first, what I can consider my first sighting, there was a lot of stuff that happened before this happened. Going back about 8 years before, the first time we ever went to Black Star Canyon, there was about 8 of us. We were walking down the path, and we got about, I don't know, a quarter mile in, and basically, there used to be squatters and stuff up there, and there was this giant person standing, squatted down on the left side of the road as we were walking up the road, right? And they were basically just like, hunched down. And they were pretty tall. They were probably 5-6 feet tall. And we were probably about 40 feet away. So we kept walking. And as we got closer, this person, I thought it was a person, it stood up, and it was probably at least 10 feet tall or so. And it 3-stepped the road. Now, this is a single lane highway. I've tried to 3-step this road. I can't. My gapes I can make it in about 4.5, 5 steps. This thing was 2 or 3 feet off the road when it took its first step. It basically stood up, pivoted, took a step about halfway, almost halfway through the middle of the road, took another step, was almost off the road, and then took another step and was a couple, 2 or 3 feet off the road on the other side, and then walked in behind a tree. And so I was like, okay, that's the tallest shadow person I've ever seen, right? So looking back at that, that probably was actually the first Bigfoot encounter I had ever had. And after after I saw that one day, these things started just appearing daytime, nighttime. I started feeling them. I guess after your first experience with them, where you can truly say it couldn't be anything else but a Bigfoot, you start to, I don't know if you make a psychic connection with them, or your brain becomes more aware of them. Maybe there's a smell associated with them that you just don't realize you're smelling. Maybe there's a sound that they make that you don't realize you're hearing. Maybe it's just intuition. I don't know. But you start to pick up on them. And the more you're around them, the more you pick up on them, and the more you kind of feel their presence. So basically, earlier incidents, we had rocks thrown over our head. We always just basically thought it was teenagers. Happened a couple times. There were some sounds of tree knocks. One time I was doing a tour. This was a couple years before I had the actual sighting. We were walking up around a corner, and there was a beautiful big oak tree. This thing was probably 4 or 5 feet wide. I mean, it was old. The thing was probably 300-400 years old, if not older. It was beautiful. The branches on it were about the same size as tree trunks. And it was right down by the creek. And we were walking around the corner, and I thought what I heard was a shotgun blast. Bang! I'm like, what the? And we all hit the ground. Everybody in the tour. I think there were 6 of us in the tour that night. And we all hit the ground. We're like, what the hell? And I look back. Is anybody? I'm looking at myself. I'm like, am I hit? No, I'm not hit. Is anybody else hit? And they're like, no, we're good. And then it happened again, but it sounded more woody. It sounded like an actual piece of wood hitting another piece of wood. And I'm like, that's strange. And I never knew what to do with that until I had that first sighting. And then it all just kind of came flashing back to me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's really strange. And so, that was possibly another time that it happened. Rocks being thrown over our head happened a few times as we were walking. Nothing serious. They just flew over us, hit the other side. I'm like, was that a rock that just flew over us? And we always attributed it to the ghosts throwing stuff over our heads, right? The feeling of being watched. That's often associated with ghosts, but Bigfoot as well. It definitely felt like when you go into that canyon, you definitely feel like you're being watched a lot. It's kind of a creepy, eerie feeling. But being a haunted location, that's normal. So did something just not sit right? A couple of times, but I always just attributed it to the ghosts. So basically, why did I dismiss it? I wasn't a believer. Like I said, I grew up watching all those shows, back in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And I just thought they were something people told, their kids to get them in at night from the forest. I just didn't believe that there could be a giant ape out there. And I know a lot of people that are the same way. They don't believe in it. Why would there be a giant ape out there? Why would they be so close to humans and all this other stuff? Well, the more I do the research into primates and Bigfoot and stuff like that, the more I find out that there actually are apes and stuff like that live in the wild down in Florida and other parts of the United States and stuff like that. And from what I've been told by a primatologist, if there was an ape or apes in the woods around you, and they didn't want you to know they were there, you would never know they were there. You wouldn't see any signs of them. You wouldn't hear them. You wouldn't feel them. You wouldn't smell them. There would be nothing. You just walk right by them. You wouldn't even know they're there. Um, Another, after my sighting, I called my wife on the way home, and I'm just rambling on and on. And she's a skeptic, which is great. But she's like, what are you smoking? What did you have while you're on your tour? Did they give you something? She thought I was nuts. And she still kind of thinks I'm a little crazy. But of course, to do what I do, you have to basically be a little crazy to go into these locations. Um, did it feel easier to ignore it? No. At that point in time, I was so excited about it. My reactions were, I got to find out more about these. I was curious. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know why these things were out here, what they were. How did I miss all this for so long? I've been going out to this canyon daytime, nighttime, and all of a sudden now these things are here. They had to have been here before. And so as I started into my research, I looked all the way back into the late 1900s, early 1900s, late 1800s, and found out, oh, well, they've been reported all over Orange County. And as time has gone on and people have moved into the areas, they've receded back into the mountains. Do I trust my logic over instinct? Yeah, pretty much I trusted my logic at that point, but after that, I had to start kind of relying on my instinct too, because now I know these things are real. So after the sighting, did that early memory resurface? Yeah, it comes to me all the time whenever I'm out at those locations, trying to relive something like that. Imagine, all of a sudden a Bigfoot's just standing next to you, 20 feet away from you in a clearing and just standing there watching you. What are you going to do with that? You're like, holy crap, you either become a believer, or you somehow rationalize it away. But 30 other people saw it too, and everybody knows it was real. So, there was no way that was a person in a suit. There was just no way. And when I start looking back into this, it just makes me think, why didn't I realize this before? And why didn't the puzzle pieces connect before? Why was I so naive? Why was I so narrow-minded that I didn't believe that these things were out there? So yeah, my perspective definitely changed immediately after that. And I set out to figure out what these things were and how they worked. And I really started researching them. I wanted to know more. So basically, when it became research, what made me go back into the woods? I think curiosity mainly made me go back into the woods. Not only that, and I had the tours to do, but I was just severely hooked. I wanted to know what these things were. I started reading. I started watching videos online. I started watching different shows that I revisited shows that I had seen before on Bigfoot to try and figure out the best way to try and get these things to react to me so that I could start to document what I was encountering, right? I wanted to get one on camera, and that's basically what I was doing. I started watching documentaries, reading books. I reached out to several of the Bigfooters and asked them about what to do, and got their information, and was learning how to essentially conduct the research and stuff like that. What drives you now? Basically, what drives me now is trying to document them. Here in Texas, we had Joe's Camp, we had, Black Star Canyon. I had probably 15 sightings of them, daytime, nighttime. One day I was out on a ridge up above the canyon floor, and I looked over. I'm like, what is that tree? I couldn't figure out what that tree was, so I took a picture of it with my phone. And again, this is 20 plus years ago. I had a little 5 megapixel camera on my phone. This is when camera phones were just coming out. And so I took a picture of whatever this was, and I thought it was a tree. When I started zooming in, I cropped in, cropped in, cropped in. Um, you could see the fur. It might have been the same one. Or actually, no, this was darker brown, possibly black, but you could see the shine on the fur. You could see the head. It was standing sideways. It was standing with its arm kind of pulled up into its chest, and it was just standing there. And there was actually another one standing right next to it. But this thing was big, whatever it was. It was just standing there in between some trees, and basically it just wanted, just, I think it just froze. Maybe it was mid stride, didn't realize it had just been seen, and it so froze, and I took a picture of him. But what drives me now is just documenting these things, trying to get documented proof of these things, um, trying to get hair samples, trying to get DNA samples, trying to get any kind of video I can, get some trail cam photos of them, get other evidence so that we can basically protect them. I think we need to protect these things. I know a lot of people think that they're bad, and other people say, oh well, they're just they hurt people, and that's not true. I don't think that's true. There probably are some bad ones. I think they're just like humans. I think the majority of them are good. They just want to be left alone to live their lives. But there are some bad ones too. And they call them the rogue ones. But they must have gotten kicked out of their family group or whatever for doing something they weren't supposed to, or being aggressive, or maybe challenging the dominant male or whatever. But I want to better understand these things. I want to know why they're here, how long they've been here, have they lived alongside us? It's just basically, I just want to take a deep dive into them and figure out what they are, and really get real evidence. I like to essentially dart one of these days, so it doesn't hurt it, take it down, and essentially be able to get some skin samples, some hair tissue, get some hair samples, get some saliva samples, maybe get some footprints from the bottom of their feet, and get a lot of pictures, a lot of video of this to really document it, and then somehow maybe get a tracker into one of them somewhere where it won't be able to take it back out, and then basically let it move away from it as quickly as possible, and let it go back into the wild, and then be able to watch it from a distance and see where it goes, see what it does, and maybe try and get use that to get another one and get another one, and tag these things so we can track them and prove that they're real, and then figure out what they're doing, and to essentially learn more about them, and learn what they are, who they are, what they do, and stuff like that, and that way we can hopefully protect it. So anyways, guys, have you ever written something off and later realized it meant more? Have you ever felt watched in the woods? Did you ever dismiss something because you didn't want it to be true? If you saw something unexplained, would you tell anyone? And that's a really good one, because a lot of people don't. That sighting didn't make me a believer. It made me curious. And curiosity will take you places before that it never could before. So essentially, I put, when I first started, I went out and got some trail cams. I went on my first solo trip by myself, and I started staying out at Black Star Canyon as long as I could, through the days, through the nights. I get there during the day and stay out through the night as long as I could. I don't think I ever really heard any tree knocks up there, but we recorded howls up there, and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't hear my first tree knock until I moved to Texas, to be honest with you. But anyways, guys, this is getting a little long. So in closing, I didn't grow up chasing Bigfoot. I grew into it. And it started with one moment in the trees that I couldn't explain away. Maybe you guys have had one too. I'd love to hear about it. Put it down in the comments and, tell us what you experienced. Again, remember, this is a safe place. We don't want any ridicule of anybody. We want everybody to be able to post their experiences and stuff down below if you want to, or you can contact me privately. Again, I appreciate you guys watching and listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.